Hello, I'm Kyle. Welcome to GIVEPAUSE Hobby, the channel where I stop to appreciate the things I love to fill my free time with. And for the past while, as you know, that has not been actually making videos for the channel. But I can officially say that one thing I and my friends and my family love to fill our free time with is the wonderful Magical Athlete. So this is going to be hopefully a short video, because this is a short, fun game, to just explain what the game is, why I love it, a couple of pointers for those who want to check it out, and that's it. So if you haven't heard of Magical Athlete before, I wouldn't necessarily put it past you, because the original game is super old, and I personally hadn't seen anything about it ever anywhere on the internet or anywhere else except for at Leader Games game night. Matt was kind enough to explain the rules to Brooke's copy that was already laid out on the table. Not that it has a huge table presence, but it immediately gave like Schoolhouse Rock vibes, except totally wild. And I just had to see, I mean, the name is wonderful, the art is wonderful. Turns out the game itself is wonderful as well. When people ask about what the heck Magical Athlete is, I usually say something like, imagine if Roll and Write was the pinnacle of gaming experience. And that's right about where I would still explain it to people. It's a roster of tons of these like crazy characters that are wonderfully broken in their different ways. You choose who are going to be in your stable, choose secretly who's going to be in each race, and then you go back and forth between the mild mile and the wild wilds to race them. Roll and move, and then each character adds something to the mix. And it's super fast, it's super crazy. The racers can have, some races are really just like straightforward, and sometimes somebody is literally off to the races and nobody can catch them. In other races, there's just these awful but hilarious like loops that go between the racers' special rules. And believe it or not, in a game as simple as this, there's a 27-page rule book, and yes, the first 6 pages are devoted to the comic book rendition, which I heartily suggest you actually read with voices as it was read to me, to your new players, because honestly, it does explain the rules very well. I'll do this later. But for now, back to business. This rule book actually has a number of interactions. They're in a game that's so simple, so conceptually basic. You'd think, oh, they'll probably just, let the players figure out the interactions. And some of them have. We have had to come up with how we would interpret, but for the most part, we don't. The rule book actually says, one of the weirdest ones was when Copycat, which is a character that just gets the ability of whoever's in first, was copying Huge Baby, and Huge Baby is so big it does not let other players enter its own space, and if it enters a space, it bonks them backwards. And I was like, well, what happens if Copycat lands on Huge Baby? And I was gonna say, well, maybe Huge Baby has to move back. And my 5-year-old son who was Huge Baby at the time, totally okay with this. But then he actually stopped and said, maybe the rule book, which like my heart grew 5 sizes that moment. And it actually says, I persistently have the power of the lead racer, not just on my turn. If there's ever a contradiction between me and the huge racer the racer I'm copying, foreshadowing, like with Huge Baby, their power takes priority. It was right there. And honestly, the times where the answers haven't been in this rule book have been extremely few and far between. So it was really, a lot of thought was put into it, and it's appreciated for a game that, is lighthearted and silly fun, but every now and then there's going to be something where like, this cannot work this way, even though you want it, that someone else at the table wants it to, you do not. And the rule book is like, bad news. That is how it works. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. There are 36 racers in this crazy game, and honestly, I really enjoy just about every one of them. There are a couple of them that I typically don't aim for. However, because you put out a random, smattering of them to choose from during the drafts. It's never, well, except when I'm playing with my son sometimes, it's never choosing from everybody. It's only choosing from a certain segment of the population. And because of that, you realize, oh, that one that I don't really care about suddenly became a lot better because none of these types of racers in your mind are actually in the game. So this one became a lot more powerful. Or you almost have to choose one of them as a counter to something else that's on the table. But in a massively wonderful sleight of hand, you get to see everything that your opponents are choosing during the draft. However, you do not know which racer is entering each race. That is a secret thing. They have their hand of cards and they go, this is my racer, and then you look around the table and then you flip it over and you realize you just used your hard counter to that one character for the character you don't counter at all. And then you see how that goes. Who knows? Maybe they'll roll only ones. You can dream, right? But the racers are wonderful. And as a father of an 8 and a 5-year-old, I have slowly worked my way up to including all of the racers. But at the beginning, the first game I was teaching to them were only players or only racers that they didn't have a decision point for their ability. It was just a binary, like on off, but it was just always on. It was something like the blimp that gets to move 3 extra spaces until it meets the second corner, and then it moves -1 each turn. So it's going super fast until it pops. There's no decision there. That's just a thing that happens. So I made all those characters, most of those characters, I kept some away, like Mouth, which I don't know, Mouth is actually an acronym because this game is wonderful. Mastication orifice utilized toward hunger. So there you go. You thought that you were just using your mouth and that was a word someone came up with. No. Turns out it's an acronym. At least in this game it is. Also, while I'm here, because it was pointed out to me and I point out to everybody, for Huge Baby, the background story, she's 30. So there you go. Mouth, I did not include in the first number of games because player elimination is a spicy meatball, and some players read My Two Children, as with, I'm sure, many children, probably would not enjoy that on their first outing of Magical Athlete. So, user advised. But I started off with those kind of just always on powers, and it was great. We just needed to remember the rules and roll with it. Then I got to thinking, this game is probably best served as crazy as possible all the time. So highest player count you've got available. But sometimes I was only being asked to play by one of my children or 2 of them. That only makes 3 people total, or even 2 total. And furthermore, there were some characters, it wasn't even like they were super difficult to conceptualize, just that they essentially didn't work if there weren't at least 3 racers in the game. So they were kept off to the side. So I thought, well, I already have these characters that have always on powers. I've identified them. It wouldn't be that hard to come up with a bot. And so I did. The Robo Racer. That green is probably causing chaos with my green screen right now. Ooh. So the link is in the description below. It is nothing super complicated. It's nothing that took a ton of work. I did a halfway decent pass on trying to choose colors that match the vibe of the game for the rules card, and it all fits on this strangely shaped just square thing you can print out and throw inside your game box. And essentially is a way to I mark my cards with a little silver dot in the corner that show these are the bot capable characters, and choose them randomly from there. And then there are rules that essentially it just runs itself once you choose the bots. Which, quick aside, the way you choose your characters is also part of the fun. Sometimes we've put out the normal splay that we draft from, almost always with at least like 2 extra ones, because you never want anybody, whether they're kids or adults, to having to get the dregs of the draft. Like put a couple extra ones in there. Sometimes we just give out like a hand of 5 cards, and we might be doing, as we call in the house, a short race, where we just do 2 races instead of 4, and then you just choose your 2 from those 5. Sometimes with my son, we put out all 36 of them and we choose from there, which was crazy, but he was really proud. He honestly does know most of the racers by name and what their ability does. He's actually reminded me about them sometimes, which again, my heart just expanded so much at that point. And he chose Egg one time, even though he had access to all the players. And Egg's specialty is you get to look at all of them who aren't in the game and choose one of those 3. So it's like a secret power. He just chose Egg because he was proud enough that he knew all of them, so he could use Egg. So you can do that too. It was a little bit overwhelming, but it was super fun still. And back to the card that I have here, the bottom of it, which actually takes up like almost probably more space than all the rules of the Robo Racer, is our Lovable Loser house rule. Now, I mean, he's adorable, but he's a menace. It's the amount of points that this crazy snail can make is bonkers, and I get it. I could be the person who's, just being unfun with a crazy power. And yes, it is situational. You have to be in last place, untied last place, and consistently stay back there. However, there are a number of ways that could happen, and there are a number of worlds in which nobody has any ability to counter that, change where you're at, or pull you forward or whatever, and then you just make points. And I am 100% for chaos, obviously. I love this game. But when it comes to a character that can make single-handedly 8 points on its own, which is 3 points more than the highest ranked first place trophy, that stops being like wacky, zany, crazy fun and just starts being wacky, zany, broken, in my opinion. I mean, you can make so many points with Lovable Loser. Being in last place, again, it needs to be in last, that you can surpass the amount of points that another player made in not just that race, but the preceding race as well. So we made a pretty small, I would say, concession to Lovable Loser, and that's that he needs to roll a 6-sided die and needs to roll higher than the number of points it has earned with its power this round. So the first one's free because you can't roll a 0 on a d6. But immediately after that, if it rolls a 1 and it's already scored 1 point, it doesn't earn it. That if it's in last place, it still doesn't earn that point. So on average, I would say Lovable Loser, even in one of those games where it would have just been an absolute nuisance, it only scores 4 points. 3, 4, maybe 5. I've never actually had Lovable Loser score 6 points ever since this rule was implemented, which again is great because 6 points is more than getting first place. And I put on there that there is also a concession to my concession, that if you want still a little bit of that wonder of being able to score so many points with Lovable Loser, you could essentially include like exploding 6s, where no matter how many points it has earned, a 6 always gets you another point. So that does remove the ceiling. But again, Lovable Loser as written is a little bit too good. The only other one that really gets you more points like that is Sisyphus, which originally I thought was a worthless, like terrible character. I've actually come around to the concept of him. He gets 4 points at the beginning every time he rolls a 6, which is typically what you want. Goes back to the beginning and loses 1 of those points. So if you, in theory, have a just mediocre game, You don't even need to finish. As long as you didn't roll a 6, you get 4 points, which is pretty great. If you manage to win with Sisyphus without rolling a 6, which would be pretty crazy, you could get as many as 9 points with it. But again, 9 points, that is totally doable by this guy without it being necessarily crazy, just being in last and never not being in last. Except that never happens with Sisyphus. I've only ever lost at least one, usually 2 or even more of my 4 stars, which means I'm at the beginning of the race, so I'm certainly not winning. Anyways, Lovable Loser, I don't love it so much, but my daughter super does, and this house rule is daughter approved, and she still loves the character. So the only thing I'd say for the bot is, there are some characters that don't really work technically when the bot is in the game. Dice Monger, which adorably my 5-year-old son referred to as the preschool teacher, because he has a bunch of building blocks, and there we go. Doesn't really work because the bot is never going to be able to choose for itself. However, you could either say that, well, he just never chooses, so Dice Monger never gets the benefit. That's fair. Maybe you could say, as a table, if he ever gets 3 or lower, then he chooses to re-roll, and then he would get the benefit. That would really only work on the mild mile. On the wilds, there are other things to take into account. Or you could just not have Dice Monger in the mix when the bot's in play, which usually is what I do. Legs, my son thought, well, why can't he be in the game? He just moves 5, which fast forward to me reading the rules from the beginning of the rule book. I can just move 5? That is true, but it is a choice. You can skip rolling and move 5, which one of the recent times my son saw legs in a game was when my daughter just did it 6 times and won, because we didn't do anything better than that. So in his mind, he's like, that would be super easy for the bot to do because he just goes 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, and wins the game. Which again, I guess you could do that, but on the wilds, that would run into some problems. But yeah, the bot, I have not used it, sparing one game recently when it was just my son and I, while my daughter was at a birthday party, and he was thrilled to play 3 games of Magical Athlete back to back to back. And one of them, he just wanted to be the 2 of us, which was adorable. It was dead at time, and he didn't want even the bot to be involved. And it was fine. We had a great time. He beat me. He actually beat me twice of the 3 games, and the bot beat both of us on the 3rd one. But he didn't even put it together. He still had a blast. And 2-player is not fun. It's just not as chaotic. And this is a game, I know, shocker, that thrives on chaos. And so every other game, ever since we put pen to paper and made Robo Racer, we have included it, which has bumped our 2-player games to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and I actually made a 5-player game into a 6-player game, and I do not regret it. It's super easy and super fun. Last thing, aside from me reading the narration at the beginning, just to sell you this game in what was supposed to be a short video, which probably isn't as short as I was imagining. Simple unboxing and reboxing of this, because if you're like me and you have a game that, at least for the time being, you expect to see hitting the table pretty regularly, you are going to want to streamline that to make it as seamless as humanly possible. And it's not like there are a lot of components in this, but there are some ways that I've found that made it a little bit more expedient. So take it away, past Kyle. So inside Magical Athlete, and all the guys inside of their wonderful bag here. Usually what I do is I pour these right out into the lid so we can figure out who we want to be. And Huge Baby has to be on their own because the way I have it set up, it usually sets up a little bit too high. Inside here, surprisingly, are not the victory points but these are all the cards, as you can see, with the silver dots included. And the reason I have these in here is because I didn't want to do the thing I normally do and immediately go grab a plastic baggie for my cards, because they did a really great job of having the paper here. I guess ironically, you'll see as I remove the wonderful rule book, this is plastic. It's just not a plastic bag. So this is, I don't know where I didn't get these. These were given to me as a present years ago. And when I get really obsessed with a game that deserves having one of these, it finds itself inside the box, which is the case for this. I also have this, so we can drop it on the floor. So this is a little icon I made years ago for a few of my games, and just reminds the table which way we're spinning around. It's inside a little coin thing here. This is my son's solution for, I said we probably need something for Mastermind, so they can stay in like the lineup of cards of who's going next and all that, but the table can know who they chose as the winner of the round. I was expecting to go look for a Lego that would be circular, like this glowing orb. He said, well, all it needs is to be yellow, right? He's 5, and he came back with this, which is wonderful. So in the corner, you got the chunky, wonderful dice, and then the board itself with not only the rules, my Robo Racer rules, but also this box sleeve thing, which is totally garbage, but it was just so charming that I didn't want to get rid of it. So after the game is over, super simple to put it all back in. This way, when the kids want to play a game quickly before dinner or whatever else, the rule book helps keep them inside. Believe it or not, I brought this to film this morning vertical in my bag, and I did not have to adjust any of those tokens in there. They just stayed that way. So that is how I box and unbox Magical Athlete, which is totally unnecessary, but if you are like me and you learn that you absolutely love this game, you're going to want this to be as quick to on and off the table as humanly possible, and that's how I do it with this. The game is, it honestly, I know it seems like hokey when people bring it out. It's one of those games that will, even for the most like gamery of your gamer friends, or you, if that might be you in that equation, it like breathes life back into what the hobby that you do in fact love. But sometimes that love becomes like, sometimes the things that we enjoy the most, we can be the most critical of. And there are some games that's super relevant. It is worthy, the criticisms that we have. This ain't one of them, because honestly, aside from Lovable Loser, which I've spent a while talking about, this game is just perfect. It is great for playing families. It's great playing with friends, playing like families of your children. Again, 5 and 8, my kids love this game, want to play it all the time. Playing with my grown friends, this is a great either like palate cleanser or appetizer game, or when you're getting together and just nothing else seems like your brains are ready for it. This one is perfect. It would be super great with adult beverages too, I would probably imagine. It's also great with, Thanksgiving coming up. You're at home with your grown family who maybe don't play so many games. There are very few rules. It is very silly, and I love it so very much. I can't thank them enough, Richard Garfield, for breathing life back into this updated game design, as it says on the contents and credits page, which is page 27, which is, again, crazy. This rulebook has 27 pages, but part of that is the comic at the beginning. So without any further ado, here is my reading of the Magical Athlete rules as best as my memory can serve, as it was presented to be by Matt in the basement of Leader Games HQ. Magical Athlete is a racing game of pure chaos. Roll a die and move your racer that many spaces. But all the racers have wacky, game-breaking abilities. I skip spaces with other racers on them. I kick racers backwards when I pass them. I can just move 5? Race 4 times, and then whoever has the most points wins. So, without any further ado, the end of my not-so-short video, just hopefully conveying my love of this insane game that I hope. It's also by CMYK, which they did a wonderful job, as they have with other games. Wilmot's Warehouse is another family favorite at the Frost household, which is by CMYK, and both of them are super affordably priced. So buy Magical Athlete. I don't care who you are. If you unless you are a solo only gamer, yes, you could play against 5 Robo Racers. That is totally doable. I do not know if it would be totally fulfilling, but you could. But sparing that one example, everybody else should have a copy of Magical Athlete in their collection, because it's just, imagine rolling right, but if it was the pinnacle of gaming experience. So without further ado, thanks for taking a pause at Give Pause. I'm Kyle, and we will see you whenever something sparks my fancy as much as this crazy game clearly has.